Hello and welcome to all the men and women of the West. I'm Joe, and welcome to the first Tolkien Dragon-Month video. I figured why not do that little intro just for fun. But anyways, last year during Dragon Month, I ended up discussing how Morgoth came to create them in the Legendarium. This year, I decided I shouldn't really revisit the topic, but rather explore what came after the creation of at least the first dragon, the father of dragons, Glaurung, or Glaurung, as he was originally known in the first drafts of the Legendarium. Part of this video's inspiration comes from, yes, the scene of Smaug at the end of The Hobbit, where he tries to trick Bilbo, a scene which kind of cements, at least for the first time in the published sphere of Tolkien's literature, the idea that dragons are creatures of trickery and wickedness. Glaurung is the first case in the actual lore. With Glaurung, there's also something else at play. Now, he does fulfill the dragon archetype, that is to say, wrapping himself up around gold and guarding something very precious and trying to undo the hero. This is a classic staple of Western dragon literature. The other thing that Glaurung does, and that Smaug attempts but fails, is to play the role of a bit of the shadow magician archetype. And in this capacity, Glaurung has a dual archetype in a way. If you remove the dragon aspect of his character, he is a wielder of the power of illusions. That is to say, he distorts the reality in a way, or at least Turin's perception of reality. He is the manipulator, as one might call him. There's something very similar that he does that Sauron attempts to do with Gandalf and with the various members of the Fellowship who come to defy him. Glaurung, for his part, ends up trying to kind of control the sense of self that Turin has. This is a classic thing the manipulator does. So that now Turin allows Glaurung into his head a little, so that Turin loses perspective. He looks at himself and thinks that he's pretty monstrous. And there is a side of Turin that is monstrous, but there's also a hero and it's this hero that Turin loses perspective of, so that Glaurung effectively ends up manipulating and misdirecting Turin. The misdirection comes when he directs Turin towards Dorloman rather than rescuing Finduilas, as Turin is supposed to. Part of the reason that this is done is as much for sick, demented pleasure as it is out of necessity to inflict the curse upon Turin, so to speak, so that everything he does comes to naught. This form of manipulation and misdirection also reveals in Glaurung something else, a great deal of cunning, and arguably Glaurung is probably one of the most cunning characters in the Legendarium, as well as probably one of the most cunning dragons. Yes, Smaug is magnificent, as he tends to proclaim, but his vanity ends up being his undoing. With Glaurung, it isn't so much vanity as it is his pride in a different sense. That is to say, he can't just leave the work undone. He has to go finish Turin off because he failed last time, and this he cannot abide. It's a similar form of vanity, but it is different. But anyways, what Glaurung does is he twists the information that is readily available for Turin, twisting the truth so that Turin seems more monstrous than what in some ways he really is. And so Turin makes the wrong decision here, and it ends up destroying him psychologically, and that was indeed the goal. Later, with Nienor, Glaurung does is reveal to her the truth. Now, he hid it when he suppressed her memories. Here, he played a kind of illusion upon her so that her memories would be suppressed and her knowledge would be suppressed, distorting her sense of reality. This is something that the shadow magician archetype does, at least in traditional comparative literature. With Glaurung, then, when he reveals the truth to her, this falls into another element of the shadow magician. That is to say, he's very secretive and likes to keep secrets in order to make use of them in a very horrific way. The secret of her relation to Turin is used to push her over the edge, psychologically, as well as kind of physically, because she later jumps off a cliff. And in this regard, Glaurung is not just dragon, but also a dark sorcerer of sorts. I know that for many this might be hard to swallow, but the thing is, he is supposed to. This is kind of his function in the story, almost more than the dragon thing. Although in Tolkien's literature, dragons are also shadow magicians who are meant to try to sow chaos and discord wherever they go. Glaurung's kind of role in the story, he's, yes, the dragon that has to be overcome and destroyed to save Brethil, but his legacy is one of discord and chaos as Hurin later comes along and turns one person against another in the region. So what we can glean from this is that the dragon is a spreader of discord, which is also what the shadow magician does, as seen with Sauron in Lord of the Rings. This is what he's trying to do, and he does do in the Scouring of the Shire. So I know there's the whole dragon trope thing of the villain's right-hand man, but that's not really what the role Sauron falls into. Glaurung kind of falls into that. I guess you could say he's got a threefold kind of role. The dragon as in the right-hand man to Morgoth to an extent, alongside Gothmog and Sauron, but also the role of the traditional literary dragon, Tolkien's dragon. I guess the fourth role, I should say, not triple role, the fourth role of being the shadow magician. But if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button, as though you were Morgoth trying to take down Thingolfin.